So, okay, we'll be starting with the right from the beginning. So my screen is visible properly and as well as my voice is also clear. Yes, done? Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so we will be having a revision of completely unit 1 today. So it will be quite an interesting, and I do feel so maximum students should have joined, but still I'm seeing only 35 participants are there. And they should join fast immediately so that we can go for the revision of machine learning. So we'll start with the machine learning. So as machine learning is defined as a computer program which is having an experience E with respect to some class of task T and the performance measure P. If the task has a measured by P improves with the experience of T. So a computer program is said to be learned from experience E with respect to some class of task T and performance measure P if its performance on the task in T as measured by P improves with experience E. So जैसे ही machine learn करता है, in order to perform some particular task, we can measure with the performance measure as P, and then T as measured by P improves with experience E. It is said to be as machine learning. So machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence which focuses mainly on machine learning from their experience and making predictions based on its experience. So machine learning is always called to be as a subset of an artificial intelligence, and it will learn through its experience and then it will start prediction based on its experience. Okay, next. Defining a difference between traditional programming and machine learning. So in case of traditional programming, you have a data as well as input that is in form of programs, and you'll get an output. But in case of machine learning, we have a data and output, and we are going to get the program. That's what the difference between traditional and machine learning is. Next. What is the difference between the whom we should call it as a learner? Whom we should call it as a learner? So that is the most important thing is कि a learner actually takes the experience data and a background knowledge and will generate models. These models will be given to the reasoner, which is knowing having some performing task, and accordingly which the answer or the performance is generated. So if we say that for creating a learner, we have to choose the training experience, that is features of the domain, choose the target functions, that is to be learned, choose how to represent the target functions, that is through mean of functions and hypothesis, and choose a learning algorithms to infer the target functions. In a simple way, learner takes the data, that is experiences and a background knowledge, generate a model which will be given to a reasoner. Reasoner is having its problem or task with itself. Accordingly, the answer or the performance will be generated. So this is how the learner can be defined in machine learning. Then comes introduction to machine learning. So we are dealing with a block diagram of machine learning. So let us have a data, huge amount of data. The data is given to the machine learning algorithm, and it will train the data and will generate a model. Now to this model, different machine learning algorithms are obviously applied. So a new data is given to this model to test whether it can predict correctly or not. If it predicts correctly, it will be as a successful model. If it doesn't correctly predict, then it will go back again to training the ML algorithm. So in this way, the model will be trained again and again until it starts giving correct prediction, and that's what the machine learning algorithm is about. Machine learning explores the algorithm. It will learn, build a model from the data, and the model is useful for prediction, decision making, and for solving tasks. So for what purpose the machine learning is used? Obviously, it is used to build a model from data, and this model will be useful in prediction, decision making, and solving tasks. Obviously, machine learning is always a data-driven decisions rather than being explicitly programmed for carrying out certain tasks. So as they keep on designing, as they keep on learning, they improve over the time when they are exposed to new data. Machine learning algorithm is trained using training data, and when a new input is introduced to this algorithms, it will make predictions on the basis of the model. That's what it's been done. If the accuracy is not acceptable, it will be trained again and again until it get an augmented training data set, until and unless it gives a correct prediction. Now, after machine learning, after getting introduced to the machine learning, then we saw what statistics is about. So where the statistics actually been used in machine learning. So statistics is used in data preparations. This includes the techniques like for outlier detection, missing value imputation, data sampling, data scaling, variable encoding, and much more. Then statistics is used in model evaluation, and the techniques can be like data sampling, data resampling, experimental design, etc. Now, resampling technique is very well-known technique, and that is called as the K-fold cross validation technique that gives a very nice that plays a very important role in case of model evaluation. Then comes statistics in model selection. So statistics methods are required when selecting a final model in case of configuration and useful for predictive modeling problems. So the techniques which is useful for model selections are checking for the significant difference between results, quantifying the size of the difference between the results. This might also include use of a statistical hypothesis test. This is all about statistics. We are using statistics in different steps of machine learning. So we have seen that statistics is used in model selection, then model evaluation, then first preparation. Now it will be used in model presentation. So the statistics when used in model presentation, at that time, it includes technique like summarizing the expected skills of the model on average, quantifying the expected variability of the skill of the model in practice. This might include estimation statistics such as confidence intervals. Then comes statistics in prediction. It is obviously now can be useful for the prediction as the model is ready now to test new data. And this technique includes quantifying the expected variability for prediction. Then we'll go in detail with the statistics. It is a subfield of mathematics. It refers to collection of methods for working with data and using data to answer the questions. Mostly there are two types of techniques, statistical way, two large groups of methods which can be used for statistics. One is a descriptive statistics and the other one is nothing but inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics is useful for summarizing the data, whereas inferential statistics is useful for drawing the conclusion from samples of data. Then comes Gaussian distribution and descriptive statistics. So they go in hand, like Gaussian distribution for data and is used and how to calculate simple descriptive statistics. So a sample data is a sorry. A sample data is a snapshot from a broader population of possible observations that can be taken from domain or generated by the process. A lot of known about Gaussian distribution and such there is a whole subfield of statistics and statistical methods then can be used with the Gaussian data. So what we are going to do is that there are two types of distributions that occur in your data. One is a Gaussian data distribution and the other one is a normal distribution data. So mostly we'll find that there are some statistical method that goes with the Gaussian distribution of the data. So it is very helpful. And at that time, when we use Gaussian distribution of data, obviously the descriptive type of statistics is used in order to solve the issues. Then when it comes to the Gaussian distribution, there are different type of statistical parameters that can be used while understanding the data. So which kind of statistical data is used is most important thing. So we have seen three types of statistical parameters that are used as far as Gaussian distribution data is concerned. The first one is a mean, second is a variance, and the third one is a standard deviation. Beyond this, there is also one more factor called as correlation. Let us start with mean. So obviously it's a central tendency or most likely value in the distribution on the top of the bell is called as mean, whereas the average difference that observations have from the mean is called as distribution or the variance. And when we take the square root of the variance, we get standard deviations. That is what the standard deviations is about, square root of the variance, returning the units to be same as those of distribution. So up till this, we have seen Gaussian distribution with statistical, mean, variance, and standard deviations. Then comes next, correlation between the variables. So obviously variables in the data set may be related for a lot of reasons. It can be useful in data analysis and modeling to better understand the relationship between variables. The statistical relationship between two variables inferred is called as correlation. So obviously, when you find out a statistical relation between two variables, it is called as correlation. So obviously, there are three types of correlations which has been there. One is a positive correlation, the other one is a negative correlation, and the third one is a neutral correlation. When both the variable changes in the same direction, when the values of both the variables changes in the same direction, it is called as positive correlation. When the value of the variable changes in the opposite direction, at that time it is called as negative correlation. And when there is no relationship in the changes of the variables, when there is no relationship in the change of the variables, it is called as neutral correlation. Now comes statistical hypothesis test. So data must be interpreted in order to add the meaning. So we can interpret the data by assuming specific structure or outcomes and use statistical methods to confirm or reject the assumption. Now the assumption is called as hypothesis, and the statistical test used for assumptions is called as hypothesis test. So now mostly there are two types of hypothesis test. One is hypothesis 0, that is called as H0, and the other one is hypothesis 1, that is called as H1. Now what is this hypothesis 0, or it is also called as null hypothesis? The assumption of the statistical test is called as null hypothesis. It is often called as default assumptions, as the assumption that nothing has changed. अगर कुछ भी बदला नहीं है तो हाइपोथेसिस नल बोल के कंसिडर होता है, लेकिन अगर उसके assumptions में changes हो जाए तो उसको हाइपोथेसिस 1 बोलते हैं, या फिर H1 for short, that is called as H1 hypothesis. So we can say that assumptions of the test hold and is failed to be rejected. So and is failed to be rejected. So फेल हो गया है वो रिजेक्ट करने में, यानी कि वो पास हो गया है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अ नल हाइपोथेसिस. एंड व्हेन इट द हाइपोथेसिस इज रिजेक्टेड, at that time it is called as hypothesis 1, or it is maybe called as H1. This is about the statistical hypothesis. Now statistical hypothesis results can be studied or analyzed with the help of p-value. The p-value is the probability of observing the data given the null hypothesis is true. So p-value जो है वो null hypothesis अगर true होगा तो वो जो observation है वो p-value का होगा. अभी वो कब H0 और कब H1 consider करेगा? If a large probability means H0 or default assumption is likely, and a small value such as below 0.05 suggestion that it is not likely, and we can reject H0 as we can consider it as a H1. That is, something is likely to be different. Clear cut है कि अगर मुझे statistical hypothesis test निकालना है तो मैं p value निकालता हूं, which is a probability of observing the data. और वो मेरा मेन मकसद ये हैगा कि मैं probability of observing the data तब निकालूंगा जब null hypothesis true होगा. So अगर null hypothesis true होने के लिए p की वैल्यू स्मॉल होनी चाहिए, that is less than 0.05, then it is called as a null hypothesis. If it is more than 0.05, that means it rejects null hypothesis, means it will go to hypothesis 1, and that is something likely to be different. So this is how the p value actually affects to find out whether it's a null hypothesis or hypothesis 1. A widely used statistical hypothesis test, अब जो टेस्ट इसको किया जाता है वो हाइपोथेसिस टेस्ट को स्टूडेंट्स टी टेस्ट बोला जाता है, which is used for comparing the mean values from two independent samples. So वो mean value को compare करेगा दो independent samples के, और उस हिसाब से student t test निकालेगा. The default assumption is that there is no difference between the samples when there is a rejection of the assumption suggests some significant difference. The test assumes that both the samples were drawn for the Gaussian distribution. So obviously everything is related with the Gaussian distribution. The default assumption is that there is no difference between the samples. Hence it goes for the null hypothesis. And when there is a significant difference between the samples, we will go with the hypothesis 1. And this is all for the Gaussian distribution and have the same variance. This is called as the statistical hypothesis test. So we have seen this part. Then comes estimation statistics. To estimate is also, estimating is also a very important concept. The statistical hypothesis test can be used to indicate whether the difference between two samples is due to random chance, but cannot comment on the size of the difference. So क्या हमने जो assume किया है वो क्या by chance है या फिर we have been going into the estimation. So how it could be? So there are three main class of the methods. One is an effect size. The second one is an interval estimation. The third one is an meta-analysis. Now, what is effect size? It is the method of quantifying the size of the effect given a treatment or intervention. So the size of an effect is calculated with the effect size, whereas interval estimation is a method of quantifying the amount of uncertainty in a value, कि कितने amount से uncertain है, ये निकालने का काम interval estimation करता है. Meta analysis, methods for quantifying the findings across multiple similar studies. यानी कि meta analysis यानी कि वो common findings निकालो जो multiple studies से, similar studies से आपको मिली है, उसे हम meta analysis बोलते हैं. Students, are you getting it? Are you getting a revision of it? Hello. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is called the estimation statistics. So it will be done by effect size, interval estimation, and meta-analysis. So the last two are very important. That is interval estimation, that is quantifying the uncertainty of in a value, and meta-analysis method of quantifying the findings across multiple similar studies. This estimation statistics perhaps is the most useful method, methods in applied machine learning, and we can use with one more technique called as the interval estimations. So mostly there are three types of intervals. The first is a tolerance interval, then there is a confidence interval, and then there is a prediction interval. So tolerance interval is the bound or coverage of a proportion of a distribution with specific level of confidence. So सीधा सीधा इसमें से एक word आप consider करो, specific level of confidence. Then comes confidence interval. This is having an more confident on the confidence interval. They will be having more confidence on the confidence interval. And the third one is a prediction interval. So this will be the prediction based on a single observation. So this is called as the three types of intervals. Of the three, perhaps the most useful method in applying the machine learning is the interval estimations. और ये interval estimations हमने अभी देखा कि वो क्या है. उस interval estimations के अंदर हमने तीन types के intervals देखे. Tolerance intervals, then comes confidence intervals, and the prediction intervals. Now, in the first, we have seen a parametric statistics. Now we'll move on to the non-parametric statistics. Now, what is the difference between parametric and non-parametric statistics? When we were using parametric estimation, at that time, we used Gaussian distribution of a data. But now in case of non-parametric statistics, we are not going to use Gaussian distribution. We'll be using the distribution to be known. That is, a large portion of the field of statistics and methods that is dedicated to the data where the distribution is known. That is the Gaussian distribution. But when the data in which distribution is unknown or cannot be easily identified, then it will be going for the non-parametric. है ना? तो जो पहले Gaussian distribution हमने use किया है, उसमें आपका distribution जो है वो known था, और जिस डेटा में डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन अननोन होता है उस वक्त आप नॉन पैरामेट्रिक लगाते हैं। जब आपका डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नोन होता है उस वक्त आप पैरामेट्रिक स्टेटिस्टिक्स लगाते हैं। In case where you are working with non-parametric data, the non-parametric statistical methods can be used to discard all information about the distribution. As such, these methods are often to be referred as distribution-free methods. Before non-parametric statistic method can be applied, the data has to be converted into the rank format. This rank format is also said to be as sometimes a rank statistic, which will give a rank correlation and rank statistical hypothesis test. Ranking data is exactly as the name suggests. So we have seen two types of statistics. One is a parametric statistics, other one is a non-parametric statistics. When the distribution is known, at that time we are going to use parametric statistics. When the distribution is unknown, we are going to use non-parametric statistics. So what is the procedure for calculating non-parametric statistics? First, we have to sort all the data in samples in ascending order and then assigning the integer rank from 1 to n for each unique value in the data sample. So what is the non-parametric test that can be used for hypothesis calculation between two independent samples? उसमें हमने किया था students t-test. इसमें हम करेंगे Mann's Whitney U test, that is also called as Henry Mann and Donald Whitney. So उसमें हमने देखा था जिसमें parametric statistics था, उसमें हमने students t test किया था और non parametric statistics के लिए हम लोग यूज कर रहे Mann Whitney U test. Have you got it? Few more things regarding statistics and machine learning. So obviously machine learning has to be more accurate in predicting the outcomes without being explicitly programmed. So the receiving the input data is very much important, that can be used to predict the output, and it can be also tested to be on a new data when it becomes available. Machine learning is a subfield of AI, and the goal of machine learning to understand is the structure of the data and fit the data into models that can be understood and utilized by the people. As machine learning algorithms allow the computers to train on data inputs and use statistical analysis in order to put the output values that falls within the specific range. Hence, overall machine learning is done in order to take an automate decision-making process based on the data inputs. Now, this was the statistics and machine learning. Before that, we have seen what statistics is about. Then we have seen statistics. We have seen machine learning. We have seen the difference between ordinary learning, ordinary programming and machine learning programming. Then we have seen the types of statistics that can be used. Now we are moving towards the learning versus designing. So as we know, we have seen learner. So learner is what? It takes the experience or data and has a background information which is given to the learner. The learner will build up a model, and this model will be given to the reasoner, where reasoner is having a specific task or the performance to be performed, and the output will be a program. So this is how the learner is to be there. So learning actually gains the experience, it gains or acquires the knowledge from experience, most commonly like synthesizing the useful concepts from the historical data. But as far as the designing is concerned, it is mainly learning that gathers a better data. Then it creates user experience that eliminates the noise in data, leading more accurate and efficient ML powered applications. The designing actually helps set expectations and trust with the user. So this design details actually builds trust and understanding amongst the users, and trust is one of the most important vital components in machine learning. So this is about the learning and designing. Then we are going to see the training and testing. So the two most important concepts in machine learning is training and testing. So training is nothing but which is implemented on the data that is been fed here, whereas the test is nothing but the, obviously when you have a data, in that data you will be having two sets of data. One is a training set and the other one is a testing set. So first of all, the data will be trained through the training set. It will be trained, and is implemented to build up a model. Whereas the test is to validate the build model, and that can be tested after training the model. So in each iteration, it is divided into training set, validation set, and test set. So here you can see that there is a training set, validation set, and testing set. So training set, like you can extract features and train to fit a model and so on. Whereas validation, you can train set into training set and validation set. Based on the validation test results, the model can be trained instances, changing parameter. This will help us to get most optimized model. Testing is once the model is obtained, you can predict the model obtained on the training set with the new data, and that is called the testing set. Characteristics of the machine learning. So there are 7 characteristics of the machine learning for which companies actually normally prefer machine learning over the other technologies. The first one is ability to perform automated data visualization, automation at its best, customer engagement like never before, the ability to take efficiency to the next level when merged with IoT, the ability to change the mortgage market, accurate data analysis, and business intelligence at its best. Then there are 2 types of tasks. One is a descriptive task and the other one is a predictive task. So descriptive task is nothing but we are insight into the past. It does exactly what the name implies, that they describe or summarize the raw data and make something that is interpretable by humans. They are analytics that describes the past. The past refers to any point of the time that event has occurred. So based on the past, you're taking the decisions, and that is called the descriptive task. Descriptive analytics are useful because they allow us to learn from past behaviors and understood how they might influence the future outcomes. The vast majority of the statistics fall in this category. Obviously, you're going to study the things from the past, and then you can predict your future also based on that, and could influence the future outcomes. So usually the underlying data is counted as an aggregate of filter column of data to which basic maths are applied. So this is the descriptive task. For practical purposes, there are infinite number of these statistics, and they are useful to show things like total stock in inventory, average dollar spent per customer, and year to over year changes in the sale. So these are some of the common applications of descriptive task. Then comes predictive task, that is understanding the future. That means it is based on the ability to predict what might happen. So predictive analytics provides estimation about likelihood of the future outcomes. It is important to remember that no statistical algorithms can predict the future 100% certainty. So you have to be based, companies use these statistics to forecast what might happen in the future. So इसीलिए ये वाला जो टास्क है ये थोड़ा सा है, थोड़ा सा वेट एंड वॉच वाला है, क्योंकि इसमें 100% प्रिडिक्शन नहीं किया जा सकता. So you can use in different applications. The companies use this statistic to forecast what might happen in the future. So for that thing, you can use it. But by default, the descriptive task is used. This task tries to make the data that you have and fill in the missing data with best guesses. Predictive task, companies use the predictive statistics to look into the future. They can be used throughout the organization, from forecasting customer behavior and purchasing patterns to identifying trending sales activities. It also helps in forecast demand for inputs from supply chain, operations, and inventory. So this, anytime you need to know something about the future, then you can use the predictive task, that is understanding the future. Now we'll move on to the database. So obviously database is by far the most important and critical component of the machine learning projects. So there are different database management systems which are available and they have been working. So first one is an Apache Cassandra, which is an open source, highly scalable, NoSQL database management system designed to manage massive amount of data in a faster manner. It is being used by GitHub, Netflix, Instagram, Reddit, etc. Two advantages: fault tolerance and elastic scalability. Couchbase is an open source distributed NoSQL document oriented engagement database management system. Advantages: They are unified programming interface, big data and SQL integration, container and cloud deployment. DynamoDB, it is an Amazon DynamoDB, which is fully managed, multi-region, durable database with built-in security, backup and store, in-memory caching for internet scale applications, mostly used by Lyft, Airbnb, Toyota, Samsung, and any others. Advantages: highly availability and durability and performance at scale. Elasticsearch, it is built on Apache Lucene and is distributed open search and analytic engine for all the types of data, including textual, numerical, geospatial, structured, and unstructured. They are open source tools for data ingestion, enrichment, storage, analysis, and visualization. Advantages: extensive number of features and faster in manner. MLDB, machine learning database management system, and is again an open source for solving big data machine learning problems, from data collection and storage through analysis and training of machine learning models for real-time prediction endpoints. Advantages: easy to use. Microsoft SQL Server, it is written in C, C++. It is a relational database management system. It can be used across rational, non-relational, structured, and unstructured data. Advantages: flexible, manage big data environment, and it provides a vital element of the data like Hadoop distributed file systems, that is HDFS. MySQL, again written in C, C++, most popularly open source relational database management system powered by Oracle. And it's been used by the successful organizations like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Advantages: security and scalability and backup software. MySQL Dump is a logically backup tool that is included for the community and enterprise edition. MongoDB is a general purpose document based distributed database built in for advanced application developers. They can be used such as geo-based search, graph search, and text search. Advantages: for data store flexibility, distributed database. PostgreSQL is a powerful open source object relational database system which uses SQL language combined with many features. Advantages: security: PostgreSQL has robust access control system and extensibility. Redis is an open source in-memory data structure which is used as a database cache and message broker. It can be used with range queries, bitmaps, hyperlogs, geospatial indexes. Advantages: automatic failover, Redis ML. Now comes data processing. So obviously, data processing plays a very important role in massive organizations like Twitter, Facebook, administrative bodies like Parliament, UNESCO, and health sector organization. This entire process needs to be performed in a very structured manner, and hence there are few steps that is to be carried out. So these are the steps like collection, preparation, input, processing, output, storage. So collection is very much important. So the data has to be collected from the authenticated source, because as we are having a huge amount of data, if the data is not properly collected from an authenticated source, it may give wrong conclusion. Preparation, it has to be prepared because you cannot directly feed it to the machine, and hence it has to be prepared. So the process of collecting the data sets from different sources, analyzing the data, and then constructing a new data sets for further processing and exploring is nothing but preparation. Input, so obviously now the input has to be in a readable form, which may not be a machine readable, so it has to be prepared. So processing is applying machine learning techniques over the input data, and the output is getting the meaningful data, is called as output. This data can be stored or it can be saved for the future use. Feature types, 4 types of feature types are used: categorical, ordinal, integer valued, real valued. Feature construction means constructing the additional features from the existing data. Feature construction can be categorized into 2 categories. One is transformation and the other one is aggregation. So transformation is nothing but constructing new features from one or more columns, whereas aggregation is implemented across the tables and uses one-to-many association to group observations and then calculate the statistics. Then feature transformation is nothing but modifying your data by keeping the information. So the data might be in case of feature reduction also, but that could be very much useful in order to discriminate the results. That is very much important. So the feature transformation happens in many ways, like simple linear combinations of the original features or using non-linear functions. Feature transformation techniques can be scaling or normalization of features like range of 0 to 1, principal component analysis and its variants, random projections, neural networks. SVM also transforms feature internally and transformations categorical features to numerical. This range from simple scaling and centering can be the most important and mostly used transformations. So we can see that there are two types of transformation, two types of features that are commonly used in feature transformation. One is called as centering the features and the other one is called as scaling the features. For centering, you can use the sample mean and population mean, or whereas this for the centering, centering can be, sorry, ek minute. The scaling can be done with the help of standard deviation, whereas centering can be done with the help of mean. So obviously there are two types of mean. One is a sample mean and the other one is a population mean. So sample mean is denoted by bar, whereas the population mean is denoted by mu. Feature selection is the most important part, because if the features are not selected accurately, the garbage will be in and the garbage will be out. So the machine learning task with feature selection becomes very, very important. So there are three methods in feature selection. One is a filter method. The second one, some examples of the filter methods like chi-square, variance threshold, information gain, wrapper method. Some of the examples of wrapper method: genetics algorithm, recursive feature elimination, sequential feature selection. Embedded methods. So this is the combinations of the earlier two methods like wrapper method and filter method. Then some of the examples are lasso, and second one L2, that is ridge regression and elastic net. Some of the applications of machine learning problems that is to be very much important. One is identifying the spam. Second is making product recommendations. The third one is a customer segmentations. Then fourth one is image and video recognition, fraudulent transactions, demand forecasting, virtual personal assistant, sentiment analysis, customer service automation. So this is how we have revised the whole unit. So have you got it?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Just a moment.